morning. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. We're in our second segment of 3. And, we were talking in the first segment, for those of you who watch on YouTube, I know that I've been trying to break these segments into 1-hour slots because I think it's easier for folks to watch. But at the same point in time, I wanted to reach on to Obamacare, and I think we're going to save that for the third hour. Because I think what we want to try to do is explore the idea of the mentality that exists today in our nation and how that is so oppressed and why we're afraid to take the risk of the unknown. Because it's so important to our ability to move from this phase to the next phase of liberty. We've forgotten the benefits of that. And so I'm going to explain what I mean by that. And we're going to use slavery as the example here. When slavery was first, well, maybe not first. Here's the problem with that slaves had. They couldn't envision freedom. It was a vague concept. It was a conceptual understanding of freedom. But the practical, realistic application of living free eluded them. And when I say that, I mean this. The idea of freedom was great. But they didn't know how, they had worked hard all their life, but they didn't know how to do a job that they got paid for. They had no concept on how to manage money. They had no concept on how to go out and get food. They knew that the master drove the wagon in and brought food once a week from town. But they'd never been to town. Only the house slave went to town with the master to load the wagon. They'd actually never been to town. And they saw that wagon loaded with food, and they knew how to prepare it, they knew how to cook it, but they didn't know how to go into the woods and go hunt it because they'd never held a gun. And they didn't know how to function in a job and go out and buy a pair of pants or a pair of shoes. All they knew is that the master came up when they needed a new pair of pants and threw a pair of pants at them that were probably worn by the last guy who was worked to death. And if they were too big, he gave them a piece of rope to tie around their waist to cinch the pants up. You see, the problem is our society has been so oppressed for so long with this concept of dependence that we don't have the fortitude, the wherewithal, and the creativity to recognize what our life would be like if government didn't tell us everything that we should do, how to do it, where to do it, under what circumstances to do it.
So you're saying that we don't have the conception, we can't even conceive of what is necessary to implement. We don't even have the capability to conceive what is necessary to implement the level of liberty that we should have under the Constitution.
We don't have the vision. We understand it's kind of like the idea of saying, well, when I die, I'm going to go to heaven. You have that foundational concept in your mind, but beyond that idea, you can't envision what it's really like. You don't know. I mean, you've read in the Bible that the streets are paved in gold and the windows are made out of diamonds. But the practical application of that is something totally different, right? And you can't envision when you're in a bad marriage what it's like to say, I'm not going to be married anymore. I'm going to have to go out and live my life by myself. I'm going to have to do my own laundry, or I'm going to have to cook my own meals. Or a woman who says, I'm going to have to go out and get a job. And what makes people not or unwilling to change is a failure and a frailty of humanity that has existed through time immemorial. And it's simply this. People will never change until the pain of remaining the same becomes so great that it exceeds the risk of the unknown and the unexpected. In other words, you will remain in that position that you are in of unhappiness, oppression, and abuse because you're afraid to strike out on your own. And it's always existed in humanity. And it's why slavery exists at all, because the slave is fearful for their life. They know that they alone cannot break free of the oppression, that it must take all slaves simultaneously to rise up and say, no more. And they don't have, it's not like they can say, I know what this is going to be like, so I know what I'm missing. It's the old adage that you can't miss what you ain't had.
So, well...
And we don't know. We ain't had liberty and freedom in our lifetimes.
Well, because there's been such an erosion over such a long period of time.
It's the frog in the pot.
Yeah, the average American cannot envision the concept of the level of liberty to which the Constitution desires to propel us and was supposed to protect us.
And we've completely abandoned making those who are our overseers accountable to us for that. That's the simple reality of it. And America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, is now the land of the downtrodden, the fearful, the cowering, and the dependent. And we don't envision what it's like to no longer be dependent. Because Americans are sitting there saying, you mean to tell me that under a new constitutional government I actually have to go get a job? I can't sit here and play video games all day?
And dependence equals what word that you were just using? Dependence equals...
slavery. It is. You think that because somebody writes you a check for food stamps or you've got an EBT card that gets loaded every month, that you're independent. You're not independent. You're doing what you're told because the alternative to that is that you'll lose your EBT card. You'll never stand up for yourself because you fear the loss of that benefit. You can hear it from seniors. Well, I paid into that system. I have to rely on that money. That's all I've got. I get it. But and any new situation must account for our seniors, by the way. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. And it must account for the truly helpless. But we cannot afford to support the hapless. Right?
The 99ers.
The 99ers. The 99 out of the, in other words, out of the 30% who are actually on full-time assistance, 99% of them don't belong there.
Well, no, 99ers refers to now unemployment benefits run for 99 entire weeks. And you have people called 99ers who are the people that when they get laid off from their job, they're just like, all right, I got it, 99
weeks.
Yeah, and amazingly,
they work for 3 months and then get fired on purpose so that they can take off the next 99 weeks. That's 2 years, people.
And then amazingly, at about week 95,
they suddenly have to apply for disability.
Okay, or
the holy grail of dependence.
Yeah. Or at week 95 or week 97,
right? They start looking for a job.
And then all of a sudden, week 98, I got a job.
Right, and then they're demanding that government provide them a job. And they only intend to stay there for 3 months until they can qualify for another 99 weeks.
Well, that's kind of like, that reminds me like that. Remember, it used to be 99 bottles of beer on the wall? It's like 99.
But here's the point. Until we are willing to stop voting for our own from the largesse of the treasury for our own personal gain, until we as Americans are willing to say, I'm willing to stand up. I'm willing to take the hard challenge. I'm willing to be hungry today. I am willing to sacrifice my own personal interest My own personal, and it's not even your interest, your long-term interest. It's your short-term interest. Because the truth of the matter is, your lack of self-esteem is directly tied to the fact that that EBT card is in your pocket like a weight of lead. You have no courage of your conviction. You have no courage of your self-value. You have lost and buried the spark of God in you, of divinity in you, under layers of lead, of dependency. And until you're willing to sacrifice and say, I am willing to stand on my own 2 feet, I know this is going to be a hard battle. I know that the pain of this is going to be extraordinary. Until you're willing to make that determined decision, we will continue down the path we are in. Until, look, a heroin addict cannot envision life without the drug. A smoker can't, his entire life revolves around getting high again. He eats, lives, sleeps, breathes getting high. That's all his mind revolves around. He doesn't worry about girlfriends. He doesn't worry about housing. He doesn't worry about his future. His future is the next 20 minutes. How do I get to the man and get that bag? We'll be back in just a minute.
I swim here every summer in my adult life. Every summer, there she is.
Can you name that movie?
Is it The Sandlot?
It is The Sandlot. Who's this?
Gretchen Evans.
What are you doing this morning, Gretchen?
Driving to work.
Where do you work?
At AVN.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Gretchen.
Name that movie, 7:35 with Cooper and Company. And this week is Summer Movies.
Join Cooper and Company weekday morning 6 to 8 a.m. here on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Complete service and satisfaction is the Earl's Dodge Jeep difference from all the other dealers in the Ozarks. Hello, I'm Janet, and I invite you to come check out our new and pre-owned on the lot at Earl's Dodge Jeep on North Highway 63 across from the fairgrounds in West Plains, where we go out of our way to make you happy. That means doing what it takes to make sure you're satisfied with your total package on your new purchase, which means taking care of you after the sale. It all adds up at Earl's Dodge Jeep, where buying a vehicle is as simple as it should be.
You see, many of you who are listening right now, and I'm going to ruffle some feathers, and I don't care. Many of you are as addicted as that heroin addict. You don't see life without that subsistence, without that help, without that dependency. You don't see how life can be without that rent paid for you, or that check in the mail, or that EBT card in your pocket that weighs down on you like a millstone about your neck. You go to church on Sunday and you hear your minister talk about that millstone, and it never dawns on you that you're carrying your own, and that you have abdicated your own freedom, your own liberty, to that. It's so critical that you grasp the fact that you are responsible for your own prison. You have imprisoned yourself by accepting that which you don't truly need. I know that there's people out there who truly are in need of assistance. And I'm not talking to you folks and I'm not talking to our veterans who are truly disabled, And I'm not talking to people who have a true disability that they need some sort of help. I am going to tell you that it shouldn't come from our government, except for military veterans. But our local people, our people who are disabled, that help should not come from government. Our founders told us it shouldn't. And you can convince yourself and justify and rationalize your belief that it should all you want. But all you are is the heroin addict who says, I don't need this, I can quit anytime I want. You're no different than the alcoholic who says, I can have this one beer and I'm going to go home early. And at 3 o'clock you look at your watch and your eyes are so blurry you can't even read it. And you get out there and you get in that car and you drive sideways down the road. The issues here are so important for us to understand that which we ourselves are doing is leading to our own enslavement. And we are willing to sit there and point out the speck in our neighbor's eye, but unwilling to remove the log in our own, or to even recognize its existence. This 99er thing with these people who are going out there, and our youth is being educated that that's an acceptable method to live. That's a life? That you're willing to trade your days and your nights for a couple of pieces of paper? What happened to the idea of self-esteem? What happened to the idea of, I'm proud of who I am and what I've accomplished? I'm proud of what I stand for and what I believe and what I know I'm capable of. What happened to Americans who were willing to say that despite adversity, I have the ability to look at myself with pride, to look at my face in the mirror as I'm shaving in the morning and say, I may not be rich, but I'm rich in integrity and honor. There's no honor in going down there and lowering yourself to sit in front of these government workers who treat you with disdain because they know that you know that you are sitting there clasping on your own handcuffs. All they do is pull them out of the drawer and put them on the table. You willingly pick it up and snap it around your left wrist and snap it around your right. America, the problem isn't with Congress. The problem isn't with President Obama. The problem isn't with the House and an immigration bill or Obamacare. The problem is with you and me. The fact that we expect government to pass Obamacare, to give us something for nothing, because somebody else is going to pay for it. When I was a kid, you went to the doctor, and there was no such thing as health insurance. And most family doctors in the community knew that most people didn't have the money. I grew up in a family of 5 boys. My parents never had the money to pay the doctor usually in full. I mean, unless it was just a basic office visit. And we had a balance with our doctor. And the medical care we got then was better than the medical care you get now. And the doctor spent more time with you. And he took a personal interest in you because he knew that if you were sick and couldn't work, he wasn't going to get paid. This idea that once Obamacare goes through, I can go to see any doctor anytime I want for every little sniffle I get. And I don't have to worry about how to pay for it. What makes you think the heroin is free? It comes with a price. That guy that you're sitting there who's handing you that bag of dope that you're going to cook up in a spoon and pop into your arm gets something for it. Blood, money, or your willing slavery.
Mike, when you talk about this expectation of entitlement, how did this expectation of entitlement, because you notice they don't call them benefits anymore. They call them entitlements.
It's verbicide.
I know.
The idea is to change the nature of words, people. And they change the nature of the word so that it doesn't have the same connotation to you. Now you're entitled. It's not a benefit, because a benefit is something that you're not necessarily entitled to. It's something you've earned. But no one earns anything anymore. I mean, they just had a thing the other day on the news that after that huge, I don't follow basketball, but after some gigantic basketball game, like a third of the people called in sick the next day for work. They were out celebrating all night. Who ever heard of such a thing? A third of all the workers in the city of Chicago didn't show up for work the day after a basketball game. They felt entitled to say, I'm off. And there's not a damn thing my employer can do about it. If that doesn't show you the mentality of entitlement, and entitlement is its own prison. It is a form of slavery because it's dependence upon that entitlement. And when you become enslaved to anything, it is your master. You will do what you are told for whatever that thing is. And I don't care what that thing is. You say our senators and our Congress people are corrupt. You know what their drug is? Power. Your drug is money. Are you any different? Are you? It's not a question. John Adams. The jaws of power are always open to devour, and her arm is always stretched out, if possible, to destroy the freedom of thinking, speaking, and writing. The jaws, I'm going to change that phrase for 1 second. That's Congress. Your phrase is the jaws of greed, the jaws of entitlement, the jaws of largesse, the jaws. Pick your word. The jaws of blank are always open to devour, and her arm is always stretched out to destroy the freedom of thinking, speaking, and writing.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. The president in South Africa meeting with President Zuma. The illness of Nelson Mandela a concern.
President Obama paid tribute to Nelson Mandela during the conference, encouraging leaders around the world to follow his example. The president won't meet with the former South African leader, still in hospital, but will see his family later.
Fox Radio's Emily Wither, a third suspect now in custody in connection with the Aaron Hernandez murder case.
Police in Miramar, Florida say 44-year-old Ernest Wallace turned himself in after spotting himself on the news. Wanted by the North Attleboro, Massachusetts Police Department for accessory after the fact in the murder of Odin Lloyd.
Fox's Molly Lyon, police suspect former NFL player Hernandez of orchestrating that murder. And former police chief Bill Bratton is preparing to launch the first comprehensive social media network for police officers, part of the trend of technology aimed at information sharing. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Thanks to Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop for sponsoring our phone lines. You can call our Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline, and you can get over there and get yourself a shave and a haircut. 2 bits. Well, a little bit more than 2 bits. Thanks to our friends over at Pizza Hut as well. On Porter Wagoner Boulevard, they have an outstanding lunch special. And on Tuesday nights, they have Kids Eat Free. Children under 12 eat for free. They're on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. Make sure you visit Pizza Hut. Our friends at the Battery Station, 303 Washington Avenue at batterystation.com. You can also reach them via telephone at 257-7799. Folks over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. Kenny's a friend of ours and a great supporter of our program. 417-256-3000, located about a mile and a half on Route 160 past Walmart. You can reach him also on the web at westplainspawn.com. Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance, half-mile east of Walmart at Route 62 in Mountain Home. You can find them on the web at ozarkmtnselfreliance.com. And you can call them at 870-492-4030. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She can be reached at 417-255-2253. You can also find her at number 2 Evans Arcade. Outstanding bakery. Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 2930116. Whether remodeling, building new, or doing some kind of custom construction like commercial or farm work, Bill's the guy for you. 2930116.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
It's crazy. Stop that. Quit insulting our intelligence. And then when we say, but wait a second, Holder says he didn't greenlight it, but he signed it. Isn't that contradictory? No, it isn't. And you don't understand the law. Shut up. You pushed that down the hill. It's all getting weirder and weirder because people they just can't believe each other anymore.
Weekdays from 9 till noon is the Dennis Miller Zone on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Whether sponsorships are available for your business or organization, call Josh at 255-2548 for more information or email info@diamondmediaradio.com.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, a mainly clear sky. It's going to be mostly sunny through the day with a slight chance for a thunderstorm. The high temperature 82 degrees. Partly to mostly cloudy tonight, low near 60. Tomorrow, mix of clouds and sun with a thunderstorm possible, high 78, sunny Monday. I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi. For more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
I saw a penguin fly out of a U.S. Cellular store with a new Samsung Galaxy smartphone. Sounds crazy, but U.S. Cellular is offering $100 off a new Samsung Galaxy phone. If that's crazy, I'm a loon.
Switch to U.S. Cellular and say hello to the Galaxy S4 for only $99.99 or the Samsung Galaxy S3 for free. U.S. Cellular. Hello better. After $100 mail-in rebate that comes as a MasterCard debit card, applicable data plan required. New 2-year agreement and $35 device activation fee may apply. Certain restrictions apply. See store for details.
So I want our listenership, all of us, myself included, to take some time this weekend, today, after this program. I want you to find a quiet place where you can sit down for a minute without distraction. Put your phone away, leave it at the house, and take a walk down the road. Leave it in the house, take a walk out into the woods. No kids, no husband talking to you, no wife, just by yourself. And I want you to spend a little bit of time asking yourself some hard questions. The first question you ought to ask is, what's my price? Because if you find that you have one, you now know what you need to do. You see, we can restore our nation, but unless we restore our faith in ourselves, unless we restore our belief in our own abilities, unless we restore our self-esteem, unless we restore that spark of divinity that's in each and every one of us, we're not going to accomplish anything. If we're not willing, to get the lead and melt it off that spark of the divine, that little tiny mustard seed in each and every one of us, we will accomplish nothing. A lot of us will die. A lot of us will be wounded and maimed, oppressed, and we will accomplish nothing. That's why my greatest fear is that enough Americans won't have that moment of self-honesty in time for us to save our republic. That the only way that hard moment will be had will be under pain or threat of death or oppression or abuse. And Americans are going to have to experience an incredible amount of suffering before they're willing to recognize that which they've always known, but kept hidden under layers of apathy. If it takes you to watch your family suffer, your children go hungry, your wife be raped, your husband be shot, your children be loaded in a train car to be headed off to some place where you'll never see them again, if that's what it's going to take our generation to come to the reality of life and wake up from this little utopian fantasy matrix we've been sleeping in, woe to us. Woe to you. I can bet money that there are very, very few people here listening right now, and I don't care whether you're watching this or listening to this or capturing it live. I can bet that there's very few of us here, right now, myself included, who aren't guilty of being willing to trade off our liberty for something. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to identify what it is and expel it from your life. And whether that's money or drugs or sex or laziness or apathy or food, whatever it is, find it, excise it, cut it out like a cancer, and free yourself. Slaves can't rule themselves.
So you're talking about having people wake up from the unreality of what surrounds them and try to cut through the static, cut through the chatter, cut through the things that...
The fog.
Yeah, cut through the things that... the things that distract them. Cut through the distraction.
Well, I'm going to give you this analogy. I know somebody who's a chronic marijuana user. And I don't care if people smoke pot, but you know that's a personal decision. I mean, I do care because I know what it does to people. It makes you apathetic. But you know, if that's what you decide to do with your life, that's your prerogative, as long as you recognize what you're doing. That you're destroying your ability to be free and to think. Because what marijuana does, while it may not be as, you know, addictive as heroin in a physical sense, you know, you're not going to get the shakes if you don't have it. But what marijuana does do is it puts a layer of fog over your thinking. And, you know, it enhances my thinking, dude. Man, I just like, you know, I can really think deep when I'm smoking weed, man. No, you don't. What you are is distracted. And your mind is it's like taking a breathing thing like your mind that needs air and oxygen and movement and then layering it in a thick coat of cellophane. It's like standing in a room where the fog is so thick you can't see your hand in front of your face. And my comment to that person was, listen, you don't even know, you've been getting high every day for so long that you don't even know what it's like to think clearly. Because your mind has been enveloped in this fog for so long that you think it's normal that you can't see more than 3 inches. You think it's normal that your mind cannot utilize logic and reason to arrive at conclusions. And what you don't realize is that you have completely buried yourself and ensconced yourself and willingly accept this fog. And if you cut that out of your life for 60 or 90 days, you will have, you'll look at grass and it won't even look the same again. It will look brighter. And a scent on the wind will be more powerfully captured by you. And you will begin to see the world the way it is. You'll begin to think in a way that you've not thought in maybe ever, because you've been getting high since you were a kid. Here you are an adult. You've never actually had a clear, logical, reasoned, unimpeded thought. It's always had to work its way through the fog. Cut that out of your life for 90 days. And tell me that you don't think in a whole different manner. You don't observe things differently around you. You don't have motivation that you didn't have before. You don't have dreams that you didn't have before, or at least the willingness to take those dreams and not let them die as a dream, but put them into practical application.
How many different things, Mike, can you think of other than just narcotics that people surround themselves with to create that fog or that distraction? I can think of one.
Television.
Cable TV. Oh my. And you know, my dad used to call it the boob tube.
Yeah.
And there was a reason why he called it the boob tube, because people would spend so much time with their face in it.
You become mummified.
My dad said you will become a boob.
You become mummified. And what's worse is it shuts down your critical thinking skills. Because what it's doing is saying, don't think for yourself. Let me tell you how you should view this. Let me tell you what's trendy. Let me tell you what's attractive. Let me tell you what tastes good. Let me tell you where you want to dream about for going on vacation. And it shows you a picture of these beautiful, slim, and gorgeous women dancing on a beach, and a handsome fellow who's in an $800 shirt.
It's a trap.
Is that really your reality?
It's a trap. And a plump wife and a big barn never did any man harm.
You know, there's an old country song out there. It's okay to be itty bitty.
That's right.
I love that song. We'll be back in just a minute.
We believe the better the ingredients, the better the taste to bring to you the greatest tasting pastries possible. At Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, we use organic, locally sourced, and natural ingredients of the highest quality. Every item is handcrafted and baked fresh for you each and every day. Visit Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade on the Courthouse Square in downtown West Plains. Or call ahead 255-2253. Be sure to like and follow Chantilly's Artisan Bakery on Facebook. Kim Commando, aka the Digital Goddess, keeps you plugged in with a daily feature. Kim Commando's Digital Minute. This segment keeps you informed with what's going on in the technology world, along with new tips and tricks to use at home to improve those computer skills. Catch Commando at 7:22 a.m. during Cooper & Company on the Ozarks Best News Talk. If the feature has you craving more, join Kim, the Digital Goddess, Saturdays from noon to 3 on the Ozarks Best News Talk, 107.1 The Point.
Hi, I'm Scott Corman, President of Community First. We want to be your bank. We believe in the strength of our communities, businesses, families, and future. We're not just locally owned, but community owned. And we operate today just as we started, by living up to our name, putting you and our communities first.
Living up to our name, community first, banking company.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
Okay, we're back. You know, my staph infection here, that would be Mike and Fast Eddie. These guys are, sometimes they're inspiring and sometimes they're silly, but, you know, we're the point of this discussion today. And I know we got sidetracked. I wanted to talk about Obamacare, but I think this is a message that's so critical, so crucial, so important for us to understand, grasp, and we need to eat this message. And we need to chew it slowly, and we need to swallow it and let it feed us. Because every one of us has got something that we've abandoned ourselves to. It's the new American way. And it's not new. It's only been going on for the last 100 years. Somehow or other, we've all gotten sidetracked. I'm asking you, that chase that you've got out there for money, or that chase that you've got out there for whatever it is, somebody who's not your husband, or somebody who's not your wife, or that chase that you've got going on right now to get high, or to meet the guys and have a few beers that turns into 16. Is that actually bringing you joy in your life? Do you feel like your life is being lived and has meaning? This is even outside of politics. If you spend all of your time obsessing for something, and I don't care what that is, and Americans are taught, just go from one obsession to the other. well, I got to have a new car. I just got to have a car. I got to have a car. I got to have a, and you go for 2 or 3 months with this new thing that you gotta have. And then you get it.
Slavery.
And then the minute that you have it, it's like, okay, what's my next target? I gotta have it. I gotta get a new dishwasher. I gotta have a new dishwasher. We gotta renovate the kitchen. We've gotta get this kitchen taken care of. Is there really something that wrong with your kitchen? I don't know. Maybe there is. I don't know. But, you know, I mean, if the floors are falling through, yeah, you probably need to do something about your kitchen. And maybe you shouldn't buy a new car, but should put in a new kitchen floor. Maybe you don't need to go out there and buy that new iPad you've been dreaming about. You see, my point is this. You're all caught up and wrapped up in this obsessive chase for things to fill that hole in you, that hole that sits in the middle of your chest, that void.
And we have all been guilty of this.
You've got that void that is like, it's screaming cold. It's a vacuum, like deep, deep space. And vacuums require filling. The laws of physics dictate it. And you fill your vacuum with what? That's the question for you. What am I filling this vacuous hole in the middle of my chest with?
Eddie says that you are fracking into areas of deep mental consideration, self-examination, and introspection. And it is a compliment.
Well, sometimes you got to sink the drill if you want the water. You know, sometimes you just got to say, I got to step back for a minute and evaluate what is directing me, what is driving me, and what are my goals? What am I doing? Stop. It's like being lost in the woods. You know, instead of just racing through in a panic and running in this direction and that direction, stop. Sit down. Take a deep breath. Get your wits about you and think. Just pause. Just pause. Take a breath. Look around. And begin to think and use your logical, reasoning mind. Fire up that spark of divinity in you. Start that motor again. And let it work. Just give yourself a minute to stop and think. And be honest. Intellectually honest with yourself. Be fearless in that introspection. Because if you're going to sit there and you're going to tell yourself lies, then you're wasting your time. And you better be ready to sit there and say, self, here's my problem. And be honest about what it is. And unafraid to look in that mirror and recognize where your failing is. Because all of the change, all of the corrections that we can do, all of the things that we can do to put ourselves in a political environment where freedom is the rule of the day are meaningless and worthless if we have no foundation, no goals, no vision for what we're really trying to accomplish in our lives. And it should be bigger than you. It ought to be bigger than you. And it ought to be bigger than your immediate. And if you're actually willing to be introspective and intellectually honest with yourself, you're going to realize that's the truth. I'm not some philosopher. I've never been to college. I don't know any. I'm not, I've not read Freud and Sartre. I can only tell you this. These are self-evident truths that anyone who's willing to actually look at them and shut off all the noise for a minute, shut off all the static, shut off all the white noise that's going shh. Shut it off. Turn off the snow. Just shut off the box. And imagine what that silence sounds like for a minute. And then use it wisely. Because that silence can be an extraordinarily valuable tool.
I wonder how many callers we have out there that have actually been on like a long trip. And after a while, you get tired of listening to talk radio and you get listening to music. I wonder how many people have just turned off the radio and just driven along in thought.
You know something? I'm glad you brought that up. I used to travel a lot. When I worked for large corporations, I'd find myself driving pretty significant distances. And some of the best time I have to myself is when I'm in a vehicle and I have no radio on. I mean, the only distraction I've got is making sure I don't ram the guy who's in front of me when he hits the brakes.
Right.
And that doesn't take much because after you've been driving for a while, it just becomes instinctual. The only thing I got to focus on is staying in my lane. And I'm going to tell you something. When I drive to Springfield or something like that, I invariably keep the radio off. I don't want it on because, I don't get a chance to get out there all that often. But when I do, that is like a 2-hour trip of just self-examination. And it doesn't always have to be self-examination. I mean, the goal of this isn't to, sit there and be the mad scientist of self-examination. But, if you're going to be obsessed about something, it ought to be that. Instead of, wondering what Kim Kardashian's going to name her baby. Or wondering what the guys on Duck Dynasty are going to do this week. I mean, honestly, where are you putting your focus and your attention? Where are you putting your... Where are you putting yourself?
When's the last time you gave a half an hour to concentration on a subject of substance?
That's why I said, shut off everything today. Tell your wife you're going to go out and take a walk. Tell your husband you need you need an hour by yourself. And I don't care if the dishes are dirty in the sink. Go out and take a walk. If you live in the city, if you live in the woods, get out there. If you live in the city, go drive to the woods, park your car, and go for a walk. And go sit on a nice big rock somewhere so you don't get eaten by ticks. And take a few minutes to evaluate who and what you are. You can find us at americasvoicenow.org. You can find us at facebook.com/americasvoicenow. And you can find this and every other show at youtube.com/americasvoicenow. Share them with your friends, will you?